Well, hello, welcome back to Supposedly Fun. I am Greg, here today to do the mid-year book Freakout tag. I was tagged by Shawn the Book Maniac. He very helpfully explained in his video that the person who originated this tag is no longer on Booktube because this tag has been going around for at least a year. So I can't link to the original video, but I will link to Shawn's video down below. You should check it out. As always, it is good. First, real quick, I just want to, just a kind of personal update. We've had a kind of emergency plumbing situation in the house. There are contractors going all around. I've tried to record this video like 4 times today before getting interrupted. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to post a whole lot of other videos this week, but I'm hoping I can get this one in. If you're watching this video, I managed to finish it and upload it. Praise whatever deity you believe in. So let's get started with the prompts. The first one is the best book you've read so far. This is a really hard one for me because I have 4 books contending for the top spot. They are, well, one of which I don't have a physical copy of. It's Educated by Tara Westover. I really like that book. I listened to the audio. The other ones are The Gift of the Body by Rebecca Brown, surprising absolutely no one, A Place for Us by Fatima Farheen Mirza, and A Fine Balance by Rahinton Mistry. Basically, ask me any day of the week, I might give you a different answer among these 4 about which one is my favorite book of the year so far. It usually comes down to A Place for Us and A Fine Balance. These are both phenomenal books for very different reasons. I actually did not pick which one I was going to say is my favorite of the year so far because I was having a lot of trouble picking between these 2. So I figured this moment right here would be the pressure point to get me to pick, and I still don't know. Gosh, they're both really great. I think knee-jerk reaction in this moment, I'm going to say A Place for Us by Fatima Farheen Mirza, but also I read this one more recently, so it really punched me in all of the feels, and I relate to it so much. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a very interesting book. So I right now, for today, or at least for the next 5 minutes, I'm going to go with A Place for Us by Fatima Farheen Mirza. I'm going to keep these books close because they will come up again. Okay, number 2. The best sequel you've read so far in 2018. Well, I have not read a sequel at all in 2018, and I feel really smug about that because usually there is at least one sequel or at least one book that's part of a series, and I haven't done that. And in a climate where it feels like every movie is part of a franchise, I feel like I'm rebelling against the system, and I am not a very rebellious person, so I gotta take these wins where I can get them. Prompt number 3, new release you have not read yet but want to. So, the first one, On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. I've heard a lot of really good things about this. What really finally sold me about this book was the beginning of the description of it on the dust jacket, which is, On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous is a letter from a son to a mother who cannot read. Well, I am sold. I can't wait to get to this. Next is Damien Barr's You Will Be Safe Here. The story of this sounds really good. It has 2 different stories, both in South Africa, I believe, and it just sounds really interesting. The third recent release that I have not read yet but want to is actually one that I don't have a physical copy yet, but only because I got a phone call yesterday from an independent bookstore in town that I had ordered it from, that it came in, and I haven't been able to pick it up yet. It's a graphic memoir called Genderqueer by Maya Kobabe. Cannot wait to read that. It sounds very interesting. Prompt number 4, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Okay, so I'm really interested in How We Fight for Our Lives by Saeed Jones. Out of Darkness, Shining Light by Patina Gappa? I don't know how to pronounce that. And The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. An upcoming release that I'm really not sure about is The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. And you can call me a stickler or fussy or whatever you want. I feel like The Handmaid's Tale is pretty much a perfect little capsule of a book, and I'm not convinced it needs a sequel, even though it does end on a somewhat ambiguous note. I have not watched any of the seasons of the TV show beyond the first season, and so I feel like there is a world in which I will read The Testaments, but I'm going to wait until it gets released to hear a little bit more about what it's about. And I know Margaret Atwood is writing it, so she probably is not viewing this as some kind of like cheap cash-in because the book is popular again. So, but the jury's still out for me. I'm not convinced that I'm going to... I like The Handmaid's Tale as it is, and I'm not convinced I'm going to want more. It's really going to have to prove to me that it's worth it. So, we'll see. Prompt number 5. What the biggest disappointment of the year so far? I am going to mention two. The first is Mouthful of Birds by Samantha Schweblin. This is not a bad book. I just had really high expectations based off of Fever Dream, and this one did not land with me anywhere near as much as Fever Dream did. And in fact, I have forgotten almost all of the stories in this collection several months later. I had forgotten them about a month later, and that probably is not a good sign. Next one is Leading Men by Christopher Castellani. I was really excited about this book because it takes a deep dive into Tennessee Williams and his male lover in the 1950s, and I was really excited to read about that, and then pick up the book and find out that the third character, who is a straight female, is actually the one that the book is most interested in. So I DNF'd this. Not sure I'm ever going to pick it back up. Prompt number 6. What has been the biggest surprise of the year so far? Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I can't remember what finally got me curious about this. It's a story of a band that's kind of similar to Fleetwood Mac, creating an album and, you know, trying to come together and falling apart. And I just decided to listen to it on audio. I loved it. I did not expect that. And I think a big part of it is actually that, so the book is told in the form of an oral history. So there's basically a long back and forth between all of the different characters. And in the audiobook, they have it performed by Jennifer Beals, Judy Greer, a bunch of other people, and it comes off really well. And part of me is, and I picked up a copy of it because I like this idea of an oral history format for a novel. So I wanted to actually explore how it plays out in the book itself. And part of me is also curious because I really love the characters in this book, but part of me is wondering how much of that was the performance of the people from the audiobook and how much of that is the book itself. So this is definitely the book that surprised me the most. I really enjoyed it a lot. Prompt number 7. Favorite new author, debut, or new to you? This is a really hard one. And again, I think it's going to come down to these two books. Let me not throw one of them. A Place for Us, Fatima Farheen Mirza, and A Fine Balance for Hint and Mystery. I really loved the writing in both books, obviously because they are my contenders for my favorite books of the year. And for Hint and Mystery, I think only has one other book that I know of. So there's really only one to explore, and this is a debut novel, so both of them are kind of limited in that. I think I'm going to go with Fatima Farheen Mirza because there's the hope that she's going to produce a lot more work, and there's only one other for Hint and Mystery, but that's the only reason I'm leaning that way. Prompt number 8, newest fictional crush. Well, I don't really have a crush on any of these characters in any of these books, but I'm going to go with Malone from Dancer from the Dance because it seems like he really needed a hug, so I'm just going to go with that. Prompt number 9, newest favorite character. Well, again, I really like Malone from Dancer from the Dance, but again, I'm coming back to these two. I really love the 4 central characters in A Fine Balance. Any one of them, they're great for different reasons, but when you put them together, it's like having 4 really great songs coming together to create a really great album. And in a similar way, I really like the family in A Place for Us. This one I can single out a single character. I would say Hadia, the eldest daughter of the family, is really interesting to me, especially because as the oldest, she has so much responsibility on her, and especially the religious sensibility of when she's going to choose to cover herself in public. In many ways, she seems to be the person who's trying to hold the family together. She's just a fascinating character. I really like her. Prompt number 10, book that made you cry or saddest book you've read. Well, 2 books have made me cry this year. We're back to A Place for Us. Definitely made me cry. And also The Gifts of the Body by Rebecca Brown. So I didn't say what it's about earlier, so I'll say it now. This is a book that was published in, I think, 1995. It is about a home health care worker who works with AIDS patients, and in 1995, people who were living with AIDS. It was much more of a death sentence back then than it is now. This book is absolutely heartbreaking, absolutely beautiful. I absolutely recommend it. Prompt number 11, a book that made you happy. Well, color me surprised. It's Becoming by Michelle Obama. I was very hesitant to read that book at all because I felt like politics is super stressful right now. I don't know that this is probably just going to make me feel agitated and stressed the whole time I'm reading it. And instead, it was an extremely uplifting book. It gave me a lot of motivation, and it was the lift that I really needed to get through the year. So definitely Becoming by Michelle Obama. Prompt number 12, favorite book to film adaptation I saw this year. So I did see the movie of Boy Erased this year, and I read the book this year, so technically that's really the only one that qualifies. However, I'm going to go with If Beale Street Could Talk, because even though I read the book in December, which was obviously last year, I didn't see the movie until January. And I think the book is beautiful and the movie is beautiful, both for very different reasons. I did a video comparing them. I'll link that down below. Prompt number 13, favorite review you've written this year, or Booktube version favorite video you've done so far this year. Well, because being smug can be fun, I like my review of The Age of Miracles by Karen Thompson Walker that I did. It is not a video, but I will link it down below. Now, I had passed on that book when it was first published because, for various reasons, but when Karen Thompson Walker's new book was published this year, a lot of people on Booktube were talking about how much they liked The Age of Miracles, so I felt like I had to go back. I listened to the audio, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. So, that review is the one I feel I like the most. Prompt number 14, the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received. Well, as part of my Pulitzer Prize project, I bought myself a copy of The Good Earth by Pearl S. Buck, because this is one of the books I'm really looking forward to reading the most for that project. So I found this very pretty Reader's Digest hardcover copy at a used bookstore in the town where I live. It's only $5. It has this beautiful kind of old-fashioned cover and spine. It's embossed, and it's laid out in a very pretty, readable way. There are different oh god, I'm dropping everything. There's an introduction to the book. There are very pretty colors in the chapter breaks, and there are illustrations in it. I am very much looking forward to reading this book. Here is one of the illustrations. So yeah, I'm really excited about this. Guess what? I got interrupted again, but I'm back, and hopefully we're gonna finish it this time. So let's go. Finishing that off, I think this very pretty version of this book is only making me more excited to be reading The Good Earth at some point. And prompt number 15, the last one. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? I mean, I don't really need to read anything by the end of the year, but there are definitely things I want to read. So I want to start my Pulitzer Prize project next month in July. So hopefully by the end of the year, I will have read Harbor by Ernest Poole, which is a supplemental read I want to do for the project. And at a bare minimum, I want to have read the first two Pulitzer Prize winners, which are His Family by Ernest Poole and The Magnificent Ambersons by Booth Tarkington. I'd love to get further than that, but I think that seems like a realistic goal for the end of the year, those three books. I would also like to finish some of the LGBTQ books that I had prioritized on a TBR for the month of June that I am, at this point, not going to be getting to this month. They are Speak No Evil by Uzodinma Owela, The Women of Brewster Place by Gloria Naylor, and City Boy by Edmund White. And then in terms of tagging, I'm gonna do my usual cop-out and tag everybody. So if you're watching this, if you read books at all, I would love to hear how your reading life has been going for the first half of 2019. So do it. Film a video. I should get back. By the way, I work from home, so if filming a video has been this difficult, you can imagine what work has been like today. So anyway, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I always appreciate your time. If you're subscribed, you're the best. If you're not subscribed, I hope you enjoyed this enough to follow along, and I'll be back. Until then, happy reading.